nutrient that we so key and yet we take it for granted. We often forget about it, and it's important for the birds, obviously, but also important at the end of the grow-out. We use water to clean the barn, and it's very, very important, especially more and more emphasis these days on biosecurity. Poultry meat, egg processing is certainly a heavy user also of water, especially if you wash the eggs in some countries. And Nander mentioned that obviously the production of crops is the highest really demand for water, but we need the crops, we need the feed ingredient for our chickens. And finally, the final one that I've been thinking of, is the cooling system, cooling pipe in the houses, refrigeration for the distribution chain, but also with the emphasis, and I've got 4 key questions in terms of water as sort of so essential for the poultry sector. One of which is first, water consumption. Can we use it in a better way as a good indicator of the health of the flock, of the performance of the flock? And my answer is yes already. But there's ways, obviously, and that's something we need to discuss. How can we do a better job? Because water is telling us a lot. In the position of a farmer, right? How can because you know that a lot of consumption of water is upstream and downstream. So how before and after us, because that's water consumption. And then finally, will artificial intelligence, especially on the queries you can run, have an impact on the water footprint of the poultry sector? Now we have sort of the digital farm, the poultry 4.0, where a lot of those parameters are being captured, including water consumption. And with that, we have potentially, we know the amount. If you have a layer barn, for example, you can almost have every row of cages, you can measure the water technology that can help us. It's not just the quantity, but also the behavior of birds. How often would they consume the water? What's the trend during the day? All those things that I truly believe will tell us something, but we are not really using that data to the best of our ability currently, and AI can help us to analyze the water consumption. For water, very important for a number of elements, and when you're a chicken farmer, one of the big headaches is poultry manure. Recent publication here looking at the impact on the environment and human health. So we have a responsibility as farmers to make sure that manure is being disposed of in a safe way, because potentially manure is contaminated with a number of bacteria that if you use improperly treat, if you medicate the birds, you have a lot of antibiotic residues that are still bioactive present in the manure. And if the manure is not properly treated, then you can also propagate antimicrobial resistance, contaminate the waterways and so forth. So that's enough decomposition, so that's all the bacteria, all the antimicrobials have been destroyed. But advantages, one of which is self-contained. So now you raw manure contained in a tank, so there is no risk of contamination of groundwater. Once again, if we're talking about reused water, the point that I wanted for us to think about is that how, as a farmer, can we influence the upstream and downstream consumption of water. So for that, I've got this slides fairly similar. I don't know, Nander, where the data you receive. I was using a thorough review paper published in 2012 that was looking at different production system also for crops. And you can see for both, basically the chicken and the egg, there's about 2,800 liters of water are needed to produce 1 kilo of product. Okay, 1 kilo of meat or 1 kilo of egg. And you can see out of it, the bird itself, it's about 3.5 liters of water that is used by our bird. All the rest, most of it is for crops, and other usage is also for maybe cleaning the house. For us to think about is artificial intelligence, and here, just like for carbon footprint, we talk about scope 1 emissions, scope 2 and scope 3 emissions. Scope 1, that's the one as a farmer, for example, you're responsible for. Scope 2 is the carbon emission from the electricity that you use, and scope 3 it's everything. So for water, it's the same for like those AI data center. For example, the scope 1, it's the water that is being used by an AI data center to cool down the system. Okay, that's 5 to 6 times the annual consumption of a country like Denmark. So it's quite important. So, okay, so that's my intervention here in terms of raising some questions, hopefully for discussion as a group.